Namaste everyone. Welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. The ongoing sessions are on Bhagavad Gita from an Advaita perspective. Offered by Binduji, we are on chapter 4. Replays of the earlier rooms are available in Clubhouse, or you can access them in the links shared in the chat. One is a YouTube channel called Advaita Retold. There is also a link for the Apple and Spotify links, Apple Podcast and Spotify. There's also a book penned by Artemisia titled Imaginary Door, which is based on Binduji's insights into Advaita, which has been published and available on Amazon if you are interested in going deeper. I'll be closing the chat and hand raising when Binduji is conducting the class, after which we'll open up the channels for any kind of clarifications or discussions. As always, thank you, Binduji. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Hari Om and welcome to all of you. Let me do my invocation. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashikridau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Beda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Gita Dhyana Shlokam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvandi Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakromo Panishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyandam Navidussura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Om Jnanagni Dagda Karmani Bhasmasat Kurude Arjuna. So Jnanagni Dagda Karman is what we were discussing yesterday where we stopped. One whose karma means the binding residue that has been burnt means Dagda by the fire of knowledge, Jnanagni. Refers to the person so characterized by the word tam in this verse, who has used his knowledge or his knowing that he is the Atman, the non-doer. Atman has virtually burnt his association with the body, mind, intellect, where the karma has been acting and the residue of the karma has been. So the fire has three properties which we saw it yesterday. One is the burning, where it consumes and leaves no residue of the thing which is used for burning. If it's using a wood, when it is burnt, no wood will be left out. But that will be in the form of charcoal or ash. But wood as such will not be remaining. This aspect is used as an example in some places, where the knowledge of the Vyavahara, that knowledge itself, since it is in part of the empirical world, is also destroyed or burnt when the aparoksha jnana of the abiding in the self takes place. all terms and terminologies like Nirguna, Saguna, or Ishvara, Brahman, Atman, all terms and terminologies which we are been using, these are all the knowledge in the form of firewood which we have been using. But when the firewood gets burnt, none of them remain, and whatever remains is the light of knowledge. And that is what is when it is burning taking place. The other aspect is the Shodhakatvam, or the purifying nature. This usually is used when purifying metal, etc. It removes the impurity while purifying itself. This happens in the earlier stage of Viveka Vairagya stages, where we use Viveka and Vairagya, and that those are the part of the knowledge in the empirical self. And what does it do? It removes the impurity in the form of avidya, or the ignorance and misunderstanding, misconception, etc. that is being removed. Then the third aspect is the bija nashaka, or the destroying nature of the seed. This is what happens when a person gets the aparokshanubhuti, his body functioning in the empirical world is without any attachment to the physical body. And there is no doership in the body because he is not identifying with the body. He is identifying with the Atma, or the self. Therefore, even though the body is appearing, it is appearing as if it is like a burnt seed which has no potency for volition, desire, etc. And it is like what is called the bija, dagda bija nyaya. So, the dahakatvam is burns the accumulated karmas, stored karma in the form of sanjita karma. The vast stock of past karma awaiting for fructification. In the 37th verse, this will be again said, Yadai Daishtami Samidhognir Basmasat Kurute Arjuna Jnanagni Sarvakarmani Basmasat Kurute Tada. There it says that as a kindled fire reduces fuel to ash, so too the Jnanagni reduces all the karmas to ash. The Sanchita karma is completely incinerated. The Shodhakatvam is the Jnana purifying the Andakarana of Karma Mala, impurity of Kartrutva Abhimana. This is in the empirical world. Making it Chitta Shuddhi, pure, Shuddha, Shanta, Nirlepa, sustained. And the Bija Nashakatvam is most importantly for moksha. The Jnana destroys the Karma Bija totally. There is no birth, rebirth, etc. As a burnt seed cannot sprout, similarly, the Jnanagni Dagda Karma cannot produce Punarjanma. It is rendered incapable of germinating into future action or future embodiment. This is the direct mechanism of Na Punarjanma. Jnanagni Karma Bijam Dagati. And the three types of karma we know. Sanchita karma is accumulated past karma waiting for fructification. This is completely incinerated by the Basmasat Kurute Arjuna. Agami karma, karma being generated in the present action. Not generated because Kartrutva Abhimana is dissolved by Jnana. He is no more, has the sense that I am the doer. His doership has gone because of that knowledge. And prarabdha karma is the karma already in the process of rectification in the current body or life. Apparently, it continues from the point of view for others. Jnana does not reverse prarabdha. Since it's already in motion, as long as the body is there, the body will be functioning, but the association with the body by the knower of Atman is not there. So akartrutva, and that non-doership releases him from the prarabdha also. But it continues apparently for those who are seeing the body of the jnani. So this is the precise Advaitic account of karma nivritti through jnana. Now the last quarter of this verse which is pending is that tamahu pandidam buddha. Tam, such a person. Ahu is normally it is used in the meaning that someone saying something to somebody. They call, they declare, they say. Here it is authoritative and settled tradition declaration. The Buddha have declared, or they do declare. The perfect tense carries a pan-temporal authority. It's not a something new assessment, but the perennial recognition of those who know what happens to the person who has dissolved his doership. And such a person is called Panditam. Panda means knowledge. So the Pandita means the highest designation of a wisdom. He is not a learned person in Shastra or an intellectually sharp person for analysis, but one who embodies wisdom, whose knowing has transformed their very being. So the Advaitic Pandita is specifically characterized in the 5th chapter, 18th verse. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gevihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapage Cha Panditas Samadarshina. The Panditas, or those who have embodied the wisdom, see equally in the Brahmana, the cow, the dog, the elephant, the outcast, etc. In the Samadarshana, equal vision, is the mark of the Pandita, arising precisely from the same verb meaning which is there in the Pashyet. Karmani akarmaya Pashyet, akarmani karmaya. That wisdom is the Panditya, or that. And he is also a Kama Sankalpa Varjita. Therefore, his karma and akarma, which we discussed in detail, should be remembered. Now, the word Buddha is a plural from the word same Bodhidavyam, which we studied. The root is Buddh, to know, to be awake, or this thing. The awakened one, those who have awakened, Bodha, Buddha, the truly wise, is more specific than the Vidvamsaha or learned or Buddha implies the awakening of Bodha. It's a transition from Ashuddha state, the ignorant state, to the Buddha state, the awakened state, or which is the Atma Swarupa. The use of Buddha as a declaring authority, Tam Pandidam Ahu, is epistemologically significant because it is this awakened who recognize the other awakened. So the Pandita has now burnt the Sanchita, karmas, and he has no more doership association with the body. So the Pandita is declared as such by the Buddha, that the Buddha can recognize the Pandita precisely because they themselves possess the same akarma darshana, or the non-doership. And it is the same jnanagni dagda karmani condition what he also has traversed through and attained what he is. So this is the testimony of equals, tulya pramana. Not external observers praising from outside about the knowers recognizing a fellow jnani. That is why a jnani can be known only by another jnani. Tamahu Pandidam Buddha. The Buddha awakened ones who declare someone Pandita are themselves the standard of Panditya. Their declaration is not a mere social recognition, but the recognition of the jnana in the jnani. Just as one who knows gold can recognize gold, only the Buddha can recognize a Pandita. There is that Mithya Pandita, or the false Pandityam, one who appears to have learned all the Shastras but lacks Tattva Jnana. This was mentioned in the 19th verse and the second chapter. Ya enam veti hantaram, yaschainam manyate hatam, ubau tau na vijanito. Both those who have think it kills, and those who think it is killed do not know. They are called the Mithya Panditas. And they know the Shastra, but has not achieved the karmani akarmaya pasyet, that non-doership, and therefore cannot claim themselves to be Pandita designation. A true Pandita is one who has sarve samarambha kama sankalpa varjita. That means all undertakings free from desire and intention. Jnanagni dagda karman, whose karma bija has been completely incinerated, and is therefore buddhiman yuktaha krishna karma krit, the 18th verse, the complete karma yogi established in jnana. So only in establishing jnana you can be a true karma yogi. Yasya sarve samarambha karma sankalpa varjita shanti. He whose undertaking has are devoid of kama and sankalpa, for him jnanagni dagda karman tam ahu pandidam Buddha. Him whose karma has been burned by the fire of knowledge, the awakened ones call him as Pandita. So the verse moves from symptom of kama sankalpa to cause, jnanagni incinerated by karma, jnanagni incinerating karma, to recognition of Pandita by the other learned people, other known people. So the absence of kama sankalpa is therefore not a practiced virtue in the Pandita, but is a natural consequence of knowledge of Purnata of the Atman whom he is identifying with. This distinction between Vairagya and Sadhana, practiced renunciation, is still in a stage of evolving effort. Whereas Jnana Phala is a natural dispassion arising from Purnata of the Atman. So Jnana Agni is the mechanism for karma nivritti. Bija Dagda Darshana, then there is an Akasha Drishtanta, where that sky analogy where fire burns what is applied, it does not burn the sky. Same way, the sky is also having all malas in it, like the cloud, the dust, etc. But the sky remains untouched by that, no residual sanjita, etc. Or any not type of any prarabdha. And in the Agnihotra Drishtanta also, the sacred fire technology, the analogy, in the Agnihotra ritual, the fire transforms, not destroys the offering. That is the belief in the Mimamsakas. The offering is not lost, but sublimated into higher forms where the Agni, Jnana, similarly transforms karma, not annihilating the action, but sublimating it from a Sakama karma, a one which is binding to a Nishkama karma, liberating one. From Karma Krit, actor generating residues, to Krishna Karma Krit, performer of all actions without residue. This is the connection to the 18th Krishna Karma Krit. Jnanagni does not stop action but transforms its inner character completely. So, for Shankara, the Buddha is actually a Guru Parampara, the unbroken lineage of Jnanins, extending from Ishvara to Vivaswat, Manu, Ikshvaku, Rajarshis, Purva Mumukshus, who has recognized and declared Panditya as such. And they declare of the Buddha is thus transmission of recognition within the Parampara. And this is a living confirmation from the teaching has fully been received and embodied. In the Genopanishad also we heard that Iti Shishruma Purvesham. This is how we have been taught in the Parampara. So we have to remember that here. Now the verse as a transition to Yajna Prakarana which is to follow, which is from 23rd verse to 33rd verse. We are completed the 19th verse now. So we have 21 and 22 verses in the coming in between. So that how is the transition being prepared? So Jnanagni prepares for the explicit Jnana Yajna, which will start from the 33rd verse. Shreyan Jnana Yajna. That is the for 37 and 47. Jnanagni Sarva Karmani Bhasmasat Kurude Agni. The verse same Agni is used as a Jnana fire, Yajna fire, into which karmas are being offered. So a Yajna is not offering of materials, physical materials into fire. In the Jnana Yajna, it is a fire of knowledge into which karmas are being offered. The Kama Sankalpa Varjita Samarambha prepares for the prepares for the 23rd verse. Gatasangasya Muktasya Jnanavasishta Chetasa Yajnayacharata Karmas Samgramam Pravilipyade. For the one who is free from attachment, liberated, and with the mind established in Jnana, acting as Jnana Yajna, all karmas completely dissolves. So the Panditya for 19 moves into Yajna performer of 23. Both are the same person, whose very action is simultaneously becoming Kama Sankalpa Varjita and Yajnarpita. Thus, the 19th verse forms the conceptual bridge between Karma Vichara which was from 16 to 22, and the Yajna Prakarana, which is going to start from 23 to 33. So the Karma Vichara now continues in the 20th verse, Tyaktva Karma Phalasangam, elaborating the practical conduct of this Pandita. So here he has defined the Pandita. Now how does he perform? So 21 and 22, next two verses, completing the portrait of the Pandita. Before, the Yajna Prakarana starts on the 23rd, where every action seen as Yajna offered into Jnanagni is revealed as the most complete expression of Krishna Karma Krit. The Pandita acting in the world like as a living fire of Brahman. The Bhashya is as follows. Yasya yatokta darshinaha, of the person who sees reality as prescribed previously, that is, the one who understands action and inaction correctly, that is, akarmani karmaya pasyan karmani akarmaya. Sarva yavantaha samarambha sarvani karmani. All undertaking and all actions whatsoever, samarambade iti samaramba. They are called undertaking because they are initiated. But the Kama Sankalpa Varjita, they are free from the desire and intention. Kamahi tat karanaischa sankalpaihi varjita. They are devoid of desires and of the mental projections that arise from desire. Mudhaiva cheshta matra anushtiyante. They are performed merely as actions of the body, or mere movements without any inner involvement or attachment to it. Pravrittena chet loka sangrahartam. If he remains engaged in action, it is for the welfare and the stability of the world. Nivartena chet jivan matrartam. If he withdraws from action, it is merely for sustaining the body. Tam jnana agni dagda karmana. That person whose actions have been burned by the fire of knowledge. Karmadau akarmadi darshanam jnanam tadeva agni. The knowledge that sees action in inaction and action in inaction is itself the fire. So there is no separate fire. The Jnanagni is to see inaction in action and action in inaction. Tena Jnanagninaha Dagnagni Shubha Shubha Lakshanani Karmani. By that fire of knowledge, actions characterized as good or bad, etc. are burnt. There is why the Dvandvadita Vimatsaraha, when he says that in the Gita. Yasya tamahu paramartaha paramartataha pandidam buddha brahmavidaha. Him, the wise knowers of Brahman, truly call him a sage. Now, before the 20th, 21st verse, Shankaracharya is writing a prelude to it. A discussion refines what is said in 19th about the sage whose karma is burnt in knowledge is being said. Yastu akarmadi darshihi. But the one who perceives inaction in action and action in inaction, saha akarmadi darshanadheva nishkarma sannyasi. He becomes free from action and is a renunciate by virtue of that very knowledge. Jivan matrartha cheshta san karmani na pravartade. He engages only in minimal activity necessary for sustaining life and does not undertake actions. Yadyapi prak vivekataha pravurtaha. even though before gaining this discrimination knowledge, he was engaged in action. Yastu prarabdha karma san uttarakalam utpannaha atma samyoga darshana syat. But if one has already begun the actions due to prior karma or prarabdha and later obtained the right knowledge of the self, saha, he, sarva karmani prayojanam apashyan. He sees no purpose in any action. Sasadhanam karma parityajati eva. He abandons actions together with their means. Sasadhanam. Saha kutaschit nimittat karma parityaga asambhave sati. However, if for some reason the abandonment of action is not possible, karmani tatpalecha sangarahitataya. He remains free from attachment to action and its results. So, prayojana abhavat loka sangrahartam. That is what is called the loka sangrahartam, or the benefit for welfare of the world. Since he has no personal purpose, he acts only for the welfare. Purvavat karmani prabhurtopi naiva kinchit karoti. Even though he appears to act as before, he truly does nothing. Jnanagdi dagda karmatvat, because his actions have been burned by the fire of knowledge. Because he sees inaction in action and action in inaction. Tadiyam karma akarma eva sampadyate. His actions becomes inaction. Ityetam artham darshayasyan aha. Intending to illustrate this point, Krishna now speaks the next verse, which is the 20th verse. Now the contextual is that 19th verse established the Pandita through the two compound quatrains. Kanga Sankalpa Varjita, Jnanagdi Dagda Karma. In the 20th verse now, it is concretized that the portrait moving from the metaphysical Jnanagni to qualitative Kama Sankalpa Varjita to be lived. Moment by moment, reality of the Pandita's engagement in action. The verse is structured around Gita's most compressed paradox, stated in the sharpest possible form in the second line. Karmani abhipravurtopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Though fully engaged in action, he does absolutely nothing. For Shankaracharya, this paradox is not rhetorical exaggeration, but the precise paramarthika description of a Jivan Mukta's condition. He is fully active at the Vyavahara level. Abhipravurtovis, fully engaged. Absolutely inactive at the paramarthika level. Naiva kinchit karoti. Does absolutely nothing. This is the 18th verses. Karmani akarmaya pasyet. That is what he is actually doing. Is now stated not as a vision, but as a lived reality. Karoti. The darshana of 18th, yapasyat, is translated into existential condition and reality of the Jivan Mukta. The verse also introduces three new characterizing terms for a Pandita. The Pandita is karma phala sanga tyagi, having abandoned the attachment to karma phala. Then nitya triptaha, is eternally satisfied. And also he is nirashraya, without any support or refuge on externality. Each of which Shankaracharya unpacks with characteristic Advaitic depth. So let us look into the verse 20th. Tektva karma phalasangam nitya tripto nirashrayaha karmanyabhipretopi san karmanya vipratopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Tyaktva karma phala sangam. Tyaktva means having abandoned or having relinquished. It is the previous action following the real action later. Tyaktva karoti. Having abandoned, he does. That is how it is to be connected. Now the words in between are karma phala asangam. Karma phala asangam. Attachment to the fruits of action. The object of tyaktva. Having abandoned attachment to the fruit of action. That is the first identity of the Pandita. Nitya triptaha. Perpetually satisfied or eternally fulfilled. Nirashrayaha. Nirashraya. Ashraya means support. Or nirashraya means without support. Or without refuge in anything external. How does he then look like? Karmani abhipravrittaha api. Karmani means inaction. Abhipravrittaha means completely engaged or immersed or actively involved. Api is that particle which connects the whole thing. Although or even though or nevertheless. Na eva kinchit karoti saha. Saha means he, the Pandita. Na eva kinchit karoti. Indeed, eva means indeed, not. Kinchit means anything at all or even little or the slightest thing. Karoti, he doesn't perform anything. So, even though he seems to be engaged in the outer world, external world, he has abandoned his desire for fruits. He is eternally satisfied and he does not support on the external means for his happiness. Karmani abhipredo api, even though he is seen to fully engage in action, in reality he doesn't do anything. This is why karmani akarmaya pashed or akarmaya karmani. So the tyaktva, having abandoned, relinquished of karma phala asanga, is foundational for the states described in the rest of the verse like nityatripta, nirashraya, karmani abhipravarta, naiva kinchit karoti. All those things are connected from tyaktva. That means first he is doing this. What? Karma phala asangam tyaktva. Karma phala asanga. Karma action, phala means fruits, asanga means attachment. So, the specific anticipated result of action, sakama karma, is not there in him. Because people who are interested in rain, they do parjanya vayatnya. Those who are wanting progeny, they do putra kameshti, etc. The anticipated result or desired result of any action is what is called the karma phala. But asanga is the clinging and attachment for that. So having tyaktva means having abandoned the attachment for the anticipated desired result of any action is what is called karma phala asanga. It is the inner grip of anticipatory attachment that transforms ordinary action into karma bandha, but as a sakama karma. But when it is tyaktva, having abandoned, it does the opposite of it. It is a foundation for a pandita. the precision of asanga, not merely sangha. It is up to the entire this thing. The Pandita has not merely reduced or weakened the attachment. Having abandoned indicates complete irreversible relinquishment. It's not a gradual vairagya or sadhana, but a natural, effortless non-attachment, which is indicated by jnanagni dagdha karma. And when the karma bija is incinerated, the root of karma phala asanga has been also destroyed. So, this karma phala asanga targets the subtle form of attachment, a cognitive clinging to the fruit of action. It is very harder to detect that than the kama, which has been mentioned earlier. Even after gross kama has been substantially reduced, a subtle chitta sangha, mental clinging to the anticipated result may persist in human beings. This is what is called the asanga or subtler form of cognitive clinging. And it is this what Jnanagni burns completely. And what Tyaktva here declares has been fully abandoned. There are two more words which complements that. That is Nitya Tripta. Nitya means eternal or perpetual. Tripta means satisfied or fulfilled. So, that eternal, without interruption or constant, is what Nitya is. It without break. It is the essential character of Atman or Brahman, Nityatva. Because they are still the Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta, eternal, pure, weak, awakened and free, is the Atma Swarupa. But Tripta is satisfied or satiated, implies nothing more is needed. Nitya Tripta means nothing is lacking in the person. The desire for completion has been met in full form. Not merely temporary satisfaction. By qualifying by the word Nitya to that Tripta, the state in which satisfaction is permanent because its ground is the very Nitya Purna Atman itself. Therefore, Nitya Tripta, eternally, perpetually, unconditionally satisfied, is not satisfied not because all desires have been extremely fulfilled, but because the root of Apurnata, or which is avidya, has been destroyed by jnana, leaving no residue of incompleteness. Apurnata means incompleteness. That could generate new karma. If there is an incompleteness, there will be a desire to fulfill that. That is not there. This is a satiation that cannot be unjustified or unsatisfied. Apta kama in the Brihadaranya Upanishad 4.4.6. Apta kama, atma kama. One whose desire is fulfilled, whose desire is Atman itself, is what the Upanishad has mentioned in the Brihadaranya Upanishad. Such a person is also Nirashraya. Ashraya means support, refuge, shelter, dependency. That to which one may resort to for fulfillment. So ashraya, any external support that the jiva depends upon for its security, satisfaction, identity, meaning, objects, relationship, status, ritual outcomes, even devatas worship, etc. Whereas a nirashraya, one without those type of external support, not depend upon anything external, is the Pandita. And he has no external refuge because they are Nityatripta. The Purnata of Atman is recognized by him as his own Swarupa. Therefore, the sole sufficient Ashraya of Atman is what is Ashraya. And it is an internal and not an external one. That satisfaction or the Purnata, completeness is internal. Externally, he may look like anybody else. So if you put the pair, Nityatripta plus Nirashraya put together, the terms are mutually entailing and philosophically complementary. Only if you are Nityatripta, one can be Nirashraya, because one is eternally satisfied. There is no need of external support. And when he is Nirashraya, he confirms that Nityatripti is satisfaction, is truly internal and self-sufficient, not depend upon any external ashraya. So together they form the portrait of person who is Brahmanishta or Atmanishta, who is abidance in the self, the self-sufficient, self-luminous Atman, that needs nothing beyond itself. So Nityatripta, the designation applies specifically to a jnani who has recognized the Atman as Ananda Swarupa, intrinsically blissful. The Taittiriya Upanishad, Raso vai saha, Rasam hi evayam labdvan anandi bhavati. He, the Brahman or Brahmavit, or Brahman is Rasa, Rasaso vai saha. Having obtained that essence, one becomes fulfilled. Rasam hi eva ayam labdva anandi bhavati. The Nityatripta has obtained or rather recognized this rasa as his own rasa or his own swarupa. Therefore, their satisfaction is eternal because one can never leave one's swarupa. That is what you are. So, not dependent on any anitya, external route of action. The contrast of Nitya Tripti with the temporary satisfaction, Kshanika Tripti, of Sakama Karma Phalas, like wealth, pleasure, praise, success, all of these produce Kshanika Tripti or momentary satisfaction. That immediately generates new karma due to the apurnata or incompleteness of the wealth, pleasure, etc. And their root problem has not been addressed. The Sakama person is thus perpetually in a cycle of temporary satisfaction and renewed desires and never in a state of Nityatripta. Only Atmajnana produces Nityatripti, for it addresses Apurnata at the root level. Nirashraya distinguishes Nirashraya from social or practical independence, which would be impossible while embodied. The Jivan Mukta continues to eat, sleep, interact. They have Vyavaharika Ashrayas, practical supports. Nirashraya means no Chitta Ashraya, Antakarana does not cling to or depend upon any external object, because its fundamental satisfaction or security is being met. The Pandita's chitta rests in the Nitya Purna Atman. Ashraya Sarva Bhutanam Brahmatma. The Atman is the Ashraya of all beings. Therefore needs no external Ashraya. But then he seems to be working in the world outside. Abhipravartaha means fully, completely, intensively engaged or total immersion in activity. The double prefix abhi plus pra is the strongest description of active engagement. Fuller than pravartaha, engaged. Plus the api, although, is bringing a paradox, creating the paradox that is resolved in the final quarter of the verse, where na kinchit karomi saha, karoti saha. But this api we have heard earlier also. Ajo api san, ajo api san. Kartaram api akartrutva. Abhi vidhi akarta. That's what we heard. The characteristic of Gita device. Holding both Vyavahara and Paramarthika using the word api. Wherever we see an api, most of the cases, it is where Krishna wants to bring in both these paradoxes of Vyavahara and Paramarthika. Therefore, Karmani Abhipreda means Vyavaharata in the Vyavahara is fully active at the level of appearance. Api, although, nevertheless, Naiva Kinchit Karoti does absolutely nothing at the level of the Paramarthika. So, Karmani Abhipretopi establishes the full Vyavaharika engagement of the Pandita before the paradoxical negation Kinchit Karoti Saha. The Abhipra, as a Vritta, ensures that the Pandita is not described as a partially engaged person or reluctantly acting. He is fully, completely, wholeheartedly engaged in karma. This refutes the misreading that Tattvajnana produces a passive individual who is withdrawn from the world and gone into the recluse or disengaged in activity. But the Pandita acts as completely as anyone else. Indeed, more completely, because he is a Krishna Karmakrit. The api, the word although, then introduces the paradox. This complete engagement notwithstanding his original Paramarthika truth, which he is really is. Naiva kinchit karoti saha. Absolutely not. In the previous ways, Abhipravarta is completely, wholeheartedly engaged. Here he says, Naiva eva. Na eva means absolutely not. Certainly not. Is emphatic total negation of the Abhipravarta. Thus, absolutely, certainly, not even the slightest thing. So, see the paradox in the statements. Kinchit means anything at all. even a tiny bit, a least thing. The karoti is the verb and kinchit is the object for it. Functions as a quantifier of the absolute zero. Na karoti alone means would have been does not act. But na kinchit karoti, when it is mentioned, does not act even to the smallest degree. Naiva kinchit karoti means absolutely, certainly does not do even the smallest thing. Each element, na eva kinchit, intensifies the negation, creating the most emphatic possible statement of inaction, akarta, or non-doing. So the paradox is in full is karmani abhipredopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Completely engaged in action, he absolutely does not do anything, even the slightest. This is the sharpest possible formulation of karmani akarmaya pasyet, which was described in the 18th verse. It is now stated not as a jnani's vision, but as the objective third-person characterization of their actual state. Karoti na karoti. The paradox is complete and intentional. This resolution requires two-level Advaitic framework, both Paramarthika and Advait, Vyavaharika. Naiva kinchit karoti saha, the most direct statement of a Jivan Mukta's akartrutva of the Gita. He resolved the paradox through the complete Advaitic bi-level analysis, two levels. Abhipravartaha, fully engaged. This is the true Vyavaharika level. The Pandita's body, pranas, indriyas, manas, etc. continue to act, driven by the prarabdha. From the standpoint of an external observer, the Jivan Mukta or the Pandita acts fully and completely. But Naiva Kinchit Karoti does absolutely nothing. This is the true at the Paramarthika level. The Atman, which the Jivan Mukta or the Pandita has recognized as their true Swarupa or his own reality, is Akarta, Avyaya and Nalimpati. Nalimpati. The Atman does not act. It is the eternal, unchanging Sakshi, in whose witnessing presence the Prakriti appears to act. Therefore, the Jivan Mukta or the Pandita's recognition is Pasyet of the truth is complete and stable. They do not identify with the Karta at all. The body, mind, etc. keeps acting. But the Akarta, their Swarupa, their nature or their true identity, Akarta, the Atman, is the witness. Here also Shankaracharya brings in through three drishtanta, the Surya drishtanta. The sun illumines all activities without itself performing any action. Then second one is Akansha drishtanta. The sky is nirlipta or unstained by all phenomena occurring in it. Actions, storms, clouds, lightning, etc. Smoke. The Pandita's Atman is nirlipta, unsustained by any actions that is occurring in its presence by the body, mind and intellect, which is in the state of abhipravarta, occurring in the full form as the body, mind, intellect. But the identity of the Pandita is of Atman. Naiva kinchit karoti. The Atman or the sky is untouched. Then the third drishtanta is the new one, which is called an actor analogy or Nata Dashtanta. It's taken from Viveka Chudamani, where he is referring to that. Like a skilled actor playing a character with a complete engagement. When we see him acting in the stage, we will identify himself as the role he is playing. While knowing they are not the character, it will be as real as that they are living the character. But at no point do they lose their own identity in the role which they are playing. Same way the Pandita acts in the world like a skilled actor, fully engaged in the Vyavaharika level, never losing the Paramartika recognition of his Swarupa or the Atma Sakartrutva. The Mimamsa has an objection. Does Naiva Kinchit Karoti mean the Pandita should not perform Nitya Karmas or the obligatory duties of the Vedas? The answer, Naiva Kinchit Karoti, is not a prescription but a description. It is not a vidhi but an anuvada of Pandita's inner reality. The Pandita continues to perform all Vyavahara duties including Nitya Naimittika Karmas, but which are the Abhipreda. But at the same time, their Atman is Akarta. The prescription is not stop acting, but act without Kartritva Abhimana, which is precisely what Karma Phala Asangatyaga and Nitya Tripti Nirashrayatva and also Karmani Akarmaya Pasyet. So having abandoned the attachment to the fruits of action, eternally satisfied without any external refuge on the external objects, fully engaged in action, the Pandita, he absolutely does not do even the slightest action. That is the logical architecture. This verse traces a complete causal consequential arc from the inner transformation through its natural consequences to the paradoxical lived reality, that is the Jivan Mukta's condition. We will stop here and take the remaining portion tomorrow, being Friday, the last day of this week. We will do these verses 20 and 21 so that next week we can enter the Yajna Prakarana. Om Purnamada Purnamitam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyawada.
Thank you very much, Binduji. I'm opening the chat and hand raising if there are any discussions ensuing from the class.
We'll meet tomorrow, complete the balance and the next verse also.
Okay,
So
Binduji.
that we can go to the Yajna Prakarana from next week.
Okay. So thank you everyone for attending this particular session. We'll meet again tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. IST, where we will continue with this karma to jnana, transformation. As always, thank you very much, Binduji, and for replays again, which is very important for if you're following through the sequence or the deconstruction of this whole thing. The replays are available on Clubhouse, or you can go into the YouTube channel, Advaita Retold, and access them if you want to get a glimpse of or an in-depth view of what has been already communicated. As always, thank you very much, Bindoji. Over to you to close the room.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, everyone, for listening this. We'll continue our Gita journey tomorrow to complete the portion before the Yajna and Jnana Prakarana. The two set of 10 verses are there, which we will complete. Hari Om. Good night.
Hari Om. Good night.